My family froze me out of Dad's retirement celebration. We don't want you arriving with grease under your fingernails. My name's Sean, I'm 33 and I've been a licensed plumber for over a decade. I poured everything into building my business from nothing. Started in my uncle's shop when I was 19, worked my butt off, got my master certification at 27, and now I run a crew of 4 guys. We handle everything from basic clogs to massive commercial projects. I'm good at what I do, and that's precisely why my family decided I was their personal 24/7 free emergency repair service. It started small, you know? Mom needed a faucet installed. Dad had a running toilet. Normal family stuff. I was happy to help because that's what family does. You help each other out. But somewhere along the way, helping out morphed into being on call for free labor for anything water-related within a 50-mile radius. Let me give you the highlight reel. My sister, Haley, had a burst pipe in January. I drove 40 minutes to her place at 2 a.m., freezing weather, crawled under her house with a flashlight. That would have been an $800 emergency call if she'd hired anyone else. She gave me coffee. Said thanks. My brother Colin decided to turn his basement into a man cave, complete with a full bathroom and a wet bar. Moving drain lines, installing a sink and ice maker hookup, a walk-in shower. That job took me 4 weekends. Would have been $8,000 if I'd charged commercial rates. He bought me a pizza. Then there was Christmas Eve. His wife, Kelsey, decided to put a potato down the garbage disposal. I had to snake it out while everyone else ate dinner. My parents' house? I've basically been their maintenance man since I was 22. Water heater replacement. Whole house repiping. 2 bathroom renovations, a kitchen sink upgrade. I even installed some fancy rain shower system my mother absolutely had to have. That was $400 in parts out of my own pocket, because they couldn't afford it. I never complained. Just showed up. Did the work. Sometimes I get a thank you. I genuinely thought this was just how family operated. I handled the plumbing. Colin, the accountant, probably helped with their taxes. Haley, the event planner, coordinated gatherings. Except, I later found out Colin had never done their taxes for free. Not once. He referred them to his firm and they paid full price. Haley? She never planned a family event without invoicing for her consultation time and expenses. I was the only one. The only one expected to drop everything at any hour and work for free. Then came the week before my father's retirement party. That's when everything went sideways. My mother called on a Sunday evening. Dad's retirement party is Saturday, she said. Just a small leak under the bathroom sink. Quick fix. 20 minutes tops. I just worked a 10-hour day installing a water main for a new restaurant. My back was killing me. My hands were raw from copper fittings. I wanted nothing more than to sit down and eat something that didn't come from a vending machine. But I drove the 40 minutes to their house anyway. The small leak was a nightmare. Corroded supply lines. A shut-off valve frozen solid with calcium. A hairline crack in the P-trap, letting sewer gas seep into the room. I smelled it the second I opened the cabinet. 2.5 hours later I was finally done. New supply lines, new shut-off valves, new P-trap. Parts 1 paid for myself because driving to the supply house would have made a long night even longer. $63 on my credit card. While I was putting away my tools, I could hear my mother in the kitchen. Her voice carried. She was talking about caterers, seating charts, confirming Uncle Dale knew the time change. I walked into the kitchen, still holding a pipe wrench, and asked what time I should show up Saturday. I figured I'd come early, help set up, whatever. I always did. My mother's face did this thing. That frozen half smile she makes when she's about to deliver bad news. She slowly put down her phone. She said the party was actually pretty small, just immediate family. They were keeping it small and manageable. I just stood there. I am immediate family, I said. Your own son. I pointed out that I'd just heard her mention Uncle Dale, my father's second cousin, who lived 3 states away and showed up to events maybe once every 4 years. She fumbled for words. Started talking about space limitations, caterer numbers already finalized, awkward to change, seating chart was done. I was still in my work clothes, hands dirty from fixing their plumbing, and I watched my mother explain why I wasn't invited to my own father's retirement party. The party that was happening in 4 days. In the house I'd just spent 2.5 hours repairing for free, like I'd done for 11 years. She said it wasn't personal. Said they'd do something separately, maybe dinner next week. I didn't argue. Didn't yell. Just nodded, packed my tools in complete silence and walked out to my truck. She followed me, still making excuses. Said I was being dramatic. Said she didn't understand why I was upset since it was just a party. I got in my truck, started the engine and drove away without a word. Here's what she didn't know. What nobody knew. 3 months earlier, I'd booked a week-long trip to Costa Rica as my father's retirement gift. A beautiful resort on the Pacific coast. Ocean view room, upgraded to premium, all-inclusive. The whole package. I'd been saving for over a year. Every extra job, every side project, every bit of weekend overtime went into that Costa Rica fund. $2,300. I'd even bought a cheesy Hawaiian shirt to wear when I presented the tickets. I had the whole moment planned, surprising Dad at the party, telling him we were leaving the following month, just father and son. A trip to celebrate his 35 years of hard work. But I wasn't invited. I sat in my apartment that night, staring at the resort confirmation on my laptop. $2,300 already paid. Non-refundable deposit. A gift for a man who, apparently, didn't need me at his big celebration. But the thing that really got to me wasn't the money. It was what I figured out around midnight, still sitting there in the dark. They didn't forget to invite me. They decided not to. There's a difference. What they did was deliberate. I was an afterthought. Someone they specifically chose to exclude, while still expecting me to fix their plumbing 4 days before the party. My best friend Zach called around 9. We've been tight since 7th grade. He's an electrician now, runs his own crew. He's the kind of friend who showed up with his truck when my ex moved out, no questions asked. I told him everything. Zach was quiet for a few seconds. Then he asked if the reservation was locked to my dad's name. Or if I could change it. I pulled up the booking confirmation. Premium room for 2 guests. Names could be changed for a $25 administrative fee. Dude, Zach said, we're going to Costa Rica. Your dad can celebrate his retirement by finding out what an actual plumber charges. I laughed for the first time in hours. Then I changed the reservation. Sean Cross and Zachary Webb. Departing Saturday at 6 a.m. The exact same day as my father's retirement party. The alarm went off at 4 a.m. on Saturday. Zach picked me up at 4:45. Both of us running on black coffee and spite. By the time my family would be gathering at my parents' house for pastries and brunch, we were 30,000 feet in the air, watching the sunrise through the airplane window. Zach ordered a ginger ale and started reading a fishing magazine. I stared at the clouds and honestly just felt relieved. My phone was on Do Not Disturb. Only 3 names could break through. Zach, my business partner Spencer, and Mrs. Brown, my elderly neighbor. My family wasn't on the favorites list. Hadn't been for years. The only calls I ever got from them were requests to fix something, or complaints about something I hadn't fixed fast enough. We landed in Costa Rica around noon. The humidity hit us, but it felt good. The resort shuttle was waiting, driver holding a sign with our names like we were somebody important. The resort was incredible. Palm trees and infinity pool that spilled into the Pacific. Our room had a balcony straight off a postcard, 2 chairs facing the water, nothing but blue horizon. I stood there for 5 minutes just taking it in. The first time in a long time where nobody was asking me for anything. Zach came out with the all-inclusive menu. We're eating shrimp for every meal, he declared. It's included. We changed into swim trunks and hit the beach with fruit smoothies that tasted like vacation in a glass. Meanwhile, back home the party was apparently going great. Until it wasn't. I got the full story later from Tony, a plumber I know professionally. Tony's been in the business almost as long as me, runs a crew on the north side of town, and had zero reason to make stuff up. About 2 hours into the party, someone flushed the upstairs toilet. The same bathroom I'd fixed 4 days earlier. What my mother hadn't mentioned when she asked for the repair. She'd been flushing flushable wipes down that toilet for months. A package a week. Every plumber knows these things don't actually break down. They just accumulate until something catastrophic happens. The wipes had been building up in the main sewer line for weeks, maybe months, creating a dam just waiting for the worst possible moment. The toilet backed up violently. Not a slow rise, Tony said. A surge. Water poured over the rim onto the tile floor, carrying everything that had been sitting in the bowl. Within minutes, it was seeping through the subfloor, dripping through the dining room ceiling below. Brown-tinted water, the kind that leaves no doubt what you're dealing with, dripping onto the dessert table, onto guests' plates, onto my father's retirement cake. My mother's first instinct was to call me. My calls went straight to voicemail. My father tried. Voicemail. Haley tried. Colin tried. Even Kelsey tried. All voicemail. They finally gave up and called an actual plumbing company. On a Saturday. Memorial Day weekend. When every plumber in the region was either at a barbecue or charging holiday emergency rates. The dispatch fee alone was $350. Tony said when he pulled into the driveway my mother was shaking. going off about where her son was and why he'd sent a stranger. He told her he had no idea who her son was. He was just there to fix the plumbing. He assessed the situation. Mainline blockage requiring a powered snake and possibly hydrojetting. Water damage to the ceiling and carpet. The total bill for Saturday alone was $875. And he told them the mainline would need follow-up work, probably another $2,000. Tony said my mother kept complaining she shouldn't have to pay because her son was a plumber. Tony told her, "Your son isn't here and the sewage isn't going to wait for a family discount." The party ended around 4 p.m. Guests made awkward excuses and left early. My father spent the rest of his retirement celebration running a shop vac while my mother cycled between fury and tears. 35 years at the same company, and his big day ended with the smell of raw sewage and an unexpected four-figure bill. I didn't know any of this was happening. I was 3,000 miles away lying in a beach chair watching the sunset. Zach was next to me going on about whether sand crabs were technically crabs or some other creature. That night, Zach posted a photo to Instagram. The two of us on the beach, smoothies in hand, sunset blazing behind us. He captioned it, "When you're not invited to the party, you become the party. Costa Rica with my boy at Sean Cross." Then he tagged my entire family. Every single one of them. I didn't find out about the tag until the next morning. I finally checked my phone and found the notification apocalypse waiting for me. 23 missed calls. 51 text messages. 3 voicemails that, from the preview, I knew weren't going to be pleasant. The text told the story. Increasingly angry messages from my mother. "Sean, where are you? Call me immediately." Then, "This is an emergency. Why aren't you answering?" Then, "Your father's party is ruined. There's sewage everywhere and you can't be bothered to pick up the phone." Several hours later, "Your friend posted that you're in Costa Rica. You're on vacation while we're dealing with this." And finally at 2 a.m., "I can't believe I raised someone so selfish." From my father, "Son, please call home." Simple, short, disappointed. That one hit different than my mother's unhinged messages. Always did. From Colin, "Are you kidding me right now? You're in Costa Rica while mom and dad's house is flooding? What is wrong with you?" From Haley, a 5-paragraph essay about how selfish I was, how I'd abandoned the family during their worst crisis, how dad's retirement was completely ruined because I couldn't be bothered to answer my phone. She concluded by saying she was genuinely worried about my mental state, and maybe I should talk to someone. I showed Zach the messages over breakfast. He read through them slowly, took a long sip of coffee. Then he said, "So, I guess they found out what a plumber costs." We spent the next 6 days living our best lives. Snorkeling in crystal clear water. Fresh seafood at beachside restaurants. Sunsets every evening that looked like someone had cranked up the color saturation on the sky. I kept my phone on D&D the entire time. The notifications piled up, judging by the badge on the home screen. I didn't read any of them. Whatever fire was burning back home, I wasn't going to be the one to put it out. The flight home landed Sunday evening. 8 days of sun and relaxation. I genuinely felt like a different person. Clear-headed in a way I hadn't been in a long time. That lasted about 45 minutes. I pulled into my apartment complex around 9, and found a welcoming committee in the parking lot. All 5 of them. Mom, Dad, Haley, Colin, and Colin's wife Kelsey. They were arranged around their cars like they'd been running surveillance for hours. Knowing my family, they probably had been. My mother spotted my truck first and started speed walking toward me before I even got the door open. Her face was a mix of fury and relief that would have been almost funny if I'd been in a laughing mood. Where had I been? Why didn't I answer? Did I have any idea what I'd put them through? I grabbed my duffel bag and walked past her toward my building without a word. Tan, relaxed, completely unbothered. My father cut me off at the entrance. His voice had that disappointed tone. He said we needed to talk about what happened, about the party, about me posting vacation photos while they dealt with the disaster. Said he didn't raise me to be this selfish. I stopped and turned to face all of them. I asked, "What disaster did you mean?" The plumbing emergency, the ruined party, the thousands in damage, the fact that I'd ignored their calls for 8 days. I nodded. Then I told him. "The Costa Rica trip? That was supposed to be your retirement gift. I was going to surprise you at the party. Hand you the tickets in front of everyone. A father-son trip." Nobody said anything. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Colin actually took a step backward. Even Kelsey, who never showed emotion about anything, looked uncomfortable. "But I wasn't invited," I continued, "so I took Zach instead." The silence lasted long enough to hear traffic on the street behind us. My mother started sputtering about the seating chart, the catering numbers, how they didn't think I'd mind. I held up my hand. 11 years. I fixed your plumbing for free for 11 years. Every leak, every clog, every broken fixture. 4 days before this party, I was in your bathroom replacing parts one paid for. And then I found out I wasn't invited. Colin stepped forward, puffing his chest. That stopped working when we were teenagers, he sneered. Said none of that was an excuse for ignoring the phone calls when they needed me. I asked, when was the last time any of you called me for something other than free labor? No answer. I laid it out. From now on you can call my business line during normal hours. I'll schedule you like any customer. Charge you like any customer. Emergency rate is $250 just to show up. Weekends are time and a half. My mother looked like I'd slapped her. She asked if I was really going to charge my own family. I'm done being your unpaid employee, I stated. I walked to my apartment door, unlocked it, and turned back. You can stay in the parking lot as long as you want. But if anyone knocks on my door, I'll call the police. Then I went inside, threw the deadbolt, and exhaled. Through the window, I watched them argue with each other for another 30 minutes before finally leaving. I took a long shower and went to bed. I figured that would be the end of it. They'd be angry for a while. We'd avoid each other during holidays, and eventually, things would settle into some kind of distant truce. That's how these things usually work, right? I was wrong. What happened next came in stages. Each stage worse than the last. Each stage made it clearer they weren't going to stop until I either caved or made them stop. It started with the phone calls and the lies. My business partner, Spencer, handled things well while I was gone. He's been with me for 6 years, started as an apprentice, and is a good plumber, even better person. He told me my mother had called the business line 9 times while I was in Costa Rica. Every single time, she demanded he personally go to their house and fix the problem as a family favor. She said he worked for her son, so he should help the family. Spencer politely explained that the family favor rate was the same as the regular rate, and quoted her the numbers. She hung up every single time. Spencer said by call 7 he was timing how fast she slammed the phone. The record was 3 seconds. Tony ended up doing the mainline repair. Charged them $3,200 total when you added up the emergency visit, the follow-up hydrojetting, and the parts. Reasonable for the scope of work. My mother, however, told everyone who would listen that Tony had ripped them off, that her own son would have done it for free if he wasn't being vindictive. That Tony had probably conspired with me to overcharge them as some kind of coordinated revenge scheme. Word travels fast in the trades. We all know each other. Tony told me about my mother's accusations over lunch. He was mostly laughing, but there was an edge to his voice. Being accused of scamming customers isn't great for anyone's reputation. He asked what was going on. I gave him the abbreviated version. He nodded and said he'd never take another call from that address. The family didn't let up. They tried different angles. My sister Haley showed up at a job site 2 weeks after I got back. I was doing a bathroom renovation for a longtime client named Deborah, literally inside the wall cavity, headlamp on, torch in hand, soldering a copper fitting. Haley walked through the front door like she owned the place, having tracked my location from my business's social media. Deborah came into the hallway to see who'd arrived. Haley breezed past her without acknowledging she existed. "We need to talk," Haley announced. "This has gone on long enough. Mom and Dad are devastated. Dad hasn't been the same since the party. He barely sleeps, he's lost weight. You're tearing the family apart over what? A party invitation?" I told her I was in the middle of a job with Live Flame and she needed to leave right now. She didn't. Said I was being childish. Said this silent treatment was immature. Said I needed to apologize and put this whole thing behind us so we could be a family again. Said everyone was waiting for me to come to my senses. I turned off the torch, set it down carefully, and asked if she'd apologized to me yet. For not inviting me. For planning an entire party around the idea that I didn't need to be there. For 11 years of expecting me to work for free while she invoiced clients for event planning. She said, that wasn't the same thing. I asked how. She couldn't answer. Just stood there with her mouth open before recovering and saying I was twisting everything around, making myself the victim when I was the one who'd abandoned them. Deborah, who'd been watching from the hallway with her arms crossed, finally spoke up. "Haley," she said, "do you work for Sean?" Haley said, "No, I'm his sister." Deborah looked at her. "Well, I'm paying by the hour for his time. My shower doesn't work. Maybe your sister could come back when Sean isn't standing inside my wall with a welding torch." Haley left, but not before turning at the door to tell me I was making a huge mistake, and I'd regret this for the rest of my life. Deborah waited until she heard Haley's car pull away, then came back. "What was all that about?" she asked. I gave her the 30-second version. She was quiet for a moment, then said her own family hadn't spoken to her in nearly a decade, and it was the most peaceful decade of her life. Said some families are just more trouble than they're worth. She became one of my favorite clients after that, referring me to 4 friends in the next few months. Colin tried the nostalgia play about a week later. Showed up at my apartment with a pizza and a 6-pack of the fancy root beer we'd liked as kids. He made his pitch. Everyone makes mistakes. Maybe they should have invited me, but I was overreacting and we needed to move forward like adults. Said he missed his brother. I let him talk for 5 minutes. Then I asked, "When was the last time I asked you for free accounting work?" He looked confused. I spelled it out. He's a CPA with his own practice, 6 employees. In 11 years he'd never once offered to do my business taxes for free. Never helped with quarterly filings or payroll setup. He said, "That's different." I opened the front door and told him to leave. He sputtered about being reasonable, about making peace. I told him he had 30 seconds before I called the police. He left at 28 seconds, still muttering about how unreasonable I was. The lies started spreading after Colin's visit. I heard through mutual acquaintances that my family was telling people I'd stolen money from them, that I'd sabotaged their plumbing intentionally, that I was on drugs or having a breakdown. Zach heard the drug rumor from his cousin, who'd heard it at my mother's gym. The story was that I'd become addicted to painkillers, and that's why my behavior changed. Complete garbage, but people were believing it. Zach was furious. Said we needed to document everything. He'd been through a nasty divorce and learned about protecting yourself when people are trying to destroy your reputation. He became my unofficial advisor on building a paper trail. 3 weeks after Colin's visit, the first real sign that things had gotten way out of hand came through my business. A property management company I'd worked with for 4 years suddenly canceled a standing maintenance contract. 12 units across 3 buildings. Consistent monthly work I'd been counting on. The manager, Vic, seemed uncomfortable delivering the news. Said his bosses had heard some things about my reliability, about me abandoning family during emergencies, about me being vindictive and possibly unstable. Someone had been talking loudly to people who mattered to my livelihood. I did some digging. My mother had been running a one-woman defamation campaign. She told her church group I'd abandoned my elderly parents during a medical crisis. Told the women at her gym I'd stolen money from my parents' savings. Told the neighbors that success had gone to my head. And through some connection I never fully traced, she'd gotten word to people in my professional network. Spencer noticed the pattern. He was tracking our bookings and the numbers were down almost 20%. When I told him what I'd found, he said it was tortious interference, a legal term for deliberately sabotaging someone's professional life. I said, "She's also my mother." He said, "Those 2 things can both be true." The in-person harassment escalated too. My father showed up at a residential job site one morning and stood in the driveway for over an hour, arms crossed, refusing to leave until I came out. The homeowner, Sandra, finally threatened to call the police. He left, but she asked me to finish the job quickly and paid without the usual friendly conversation. My mother convinced a neighbor to let her into my apartment building by claiming she was visiting for my birthday. My birthday is in March. This was August. She knocked on my door for 45 minutes, alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations. I didn't open the door. Yelled that I was calling the police. She left when she heard sirens, though they were responding to something else entirely. The final breaking point came on a Thursday morning in early September. I was meeting with a potential new commercial client, Tyson. He was opening a farm-to-table restaurant downtown and needed the kitchen plumbing evaluated. This was the kind of job I'd been working toward for years. Serious money. Tyson seemed like a good guy. We were in the middle of the walkthrough, him asking smart questions about water pressure, drainage, grease interceptor sizing. I was explaining the options, feeling good about this one, already running the numbers in my head. Then my brother Colin walked through the front door. He'd followed me there. Must have been sitting in his car around the corner, waiting for me to show up at my next appointment like some kind of stalker. He didn't even acknowledge Tyson standing there. Just started talking loudly about family business, like we were in our parents' kitchen instead of someone else's future restaurant. About how I was abandoning our parents. How Dad's health was suffering because of the stress. How everyone was worried about me. Tyson looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. The easy vibe we'd been building was gone. I told Colin to leave, that this was a business meeting with a client. He didn't. He got louder. Said I couldn't keep running from this. Said I Needed to stop being so selfish and come home and apologize like a man. Tyson took a visible step backward. I could see him mentally recalculating whether he wanted to work with someone who had this kind of drama following him around. Colin moved closer until he was right in my face. He grabbed my arm and tried to physically pull me toward the door. Said we were going to talk outside like men whether I liked it or not. I yanked my arm free. Told him flat out that if he touched me again I'd put him on the ground. Tyson cleared his throat and said he thought we should reschedule. Said he'd call me when things settled down. He never called. I lost a $15,000 job because my brother couldn't accept being told no. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the documentation Zach had helped me build. Call logs, screenshots, dates, witnesses. A paper trail stretching back weeks. This wasn't going to stop on its own. They weren't going to get tired. They were going to keep pushing until they either broke me down or destroyed my business completely. So I called a lawyer. Her name was Amanda. Civil litigation. Zach knew her from his divorce. Said she doesn't mess around. I brought everything. Screenshots of texts and social media posts, call logs, lost contracts with dates and dollar amounts, statements from Spencer and Deborah documenting what they'd witnessed. She reviewed it all, taking notes. When she finished, she asked what outcome I wanted. I said I wanted them to stop. I wanted my life back. Here's what we do, she said. First, a formal cease and desist letter. Put them on notice that what they're doing has legal consequences. Document that they've been warned. Most people back off when they see letterhead from a law firm. My family was not most people. The cease and desist went out on a Tuesday. By Thursday, my mother had posted on Facebook calling me an addict who'd abandoned his elderly parents. She tagged extended family, church friends, made it public like she was daring me to do something about it. Amanda said, "Okay, now we escalate." She filed for a temporary restraining order based on the harassment, the job site ambushes, the apartment stalking, the pattern of showing up uninvited. The documented Facebook post helped. The order got granted. A process server caught all 4 of them. 2 days later, my father showed up at my apartment anyway. Knocked on my door for 20 minutes. I didn't open it. Called the non-emergency police line. Officers came out, documented the violation, told him he needed to leave, and that violating the order again could mean arrest. That incident became important later. Amanda didn't file a full defamation lawsuit. She explained that defamation cases are expensive, slow, and hard to win even when you're clearly right. What she did instead was smarter. She sent their lawyer a letter laying out everything we had documented. The letter made clear that if this went to court, we'd pursue full damages plus legal fees. But it also offered an alternative, mediation. Their lawyer called back within a week. They wanted to talk. The mediation was at a neutral office downtown. Just a conference room with a mediator, both lawyers and the parties involved. Spencer came as a witness. It was the first time I'd been in the same room with all of them since the parking lot. My parents looked tired. Colin sat with his arms crossed. Haley wouldn't make eye contact. Their lawyer started with the usual stuff about emotions running high and finding a path forward. Amanda cut through it. Said we weren't there to fix relationships. We were there to agree on terms that would make this stop. The terms: they stay away from me. 500 feet from my residence, my business, any job site. No contact, direct or indirect. Written retraction sent to everyone they'd lied to. And reimbursement of $14,000 in documented business losses. They pushed back. Said the money was too much. Said the retractions were humiliating. Said they shouldn't have to admit they'd done anything wrong. Amanda laid out the alternative. We had my father's restraining order violation documented. We had the Facebook posts where my mother called me a drug addict, time-stamped after the cease and desist. We had client statements, lost contracts, a clear paper trail. If we went to court, we'd ask for more than $14,000. And it would all be public record. The mediator suggested a break. When we came back, their lawyer said his clients would agree to the terms. No trial, no courtroom drama, just paperwork and a check. The retraction letters went out the following week. My mother had to send them herself to her church group, her gym, everyone she'd told those lies to. The letters stated clearly that her claims about me stealing money, sabotaging plumbing, and using drugs were false. The check cleared 2 weeks later, $14,000. I heard through Uncle Dale they had to dip into savings to cover it. He said he thought I'd handled things the right way. The restraining order stayed in place. A judge made it permanent at a routine hearing where nobody contested anything. Walking out of that hearing, I didn't feel like I'd won some big victory. Didn't feel vindicated. Just felt done. The months that followed were quiet in the best possible way. No ambushes at job sites. No lies spreading through my professional network. No one showing up at my apartment to pound on the door. No more treating me like I owed them free labor for the rest of my life. I rebuilt what I could. Some clients came back once word got around about what really happened. The retraction letters helped. Vic from the property management company called personally to apologize and asked if I'd consider taking them back. I said I would at my standard rates. He said that was more than fair. Deborah referred me to 4 friends, all of whom became regulars. Turns out she knew a lot of people who appreciated good work and paid on time. Tony started sending overflow jobs my way when his schedule got packed. We'd grab lunch sometimes and trade war stories about difficult clients. Spencer and I hired an apprentice named Jordan, fresh out of trade school. I heard through the grapevine that my parents' social circle had shrunk significantly after the retraction letters went out. Turns out people don't like finding out they've been lied to. Colin's marriage was in serious trouble. Kelsey, who'd barely spoken 12 words to me over the years, had apparently found plenty of words once she learned the full story. Haley moved to another state for a job opportunity, though the timing suggested she was running from the local embarrassment as much as toward anything new. I didn't reach out. Didn't feel the pull of obligation that had driven my decisions for so many years. My life now is actually mine. I run a business with people I respect. I have friends who actually want to be around me, not just use me. And that's more than enough for me. This whole experience taught me a hard lesson about boundaries even with family. Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with someone you care about, and how did it turn out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really love to hear your experiences.